what exactly like makes like males like better leaders than women?
In terms of like what makes a man a better leader, he's far less influenced by emotions. He's far more willing to do what needs to be done for the people over whom he governs than women are. Women are far more likely to allow emotional impulses to govern their judgments, and I think that the historical record is very clear.
I want to weigh in on this really quickly. So obviously what makes a good leader is going to depend on in what context they need to lead. So for example, they've done studies where they found that when women are in top executive positions they studied over 1,000 different companies, and they found that companies that had women in top executive positions, those companies outperformed all of their competitors by near 25%. Even more so, this idea that women are governed by their emotion and men are just the rational ones is just complete nonsense. So there's two different studies that completely just debunk this, okay? The first one being a study that was done recently where they tracked over 152 men and women, and a group of those women were actually even on their period at the time, John. And they found that men and women in that group all reported near identical emotional fluctuation. Not to mention, they've done another study where they presented men and women with complex moral decisions. And they did find that women had a more emotional response. However, the rationale behind the decisions made were no different. Men and women were virtually identical when it came to making rational decisions. Emotion is not actually the antithesis to rationale.
The study that he's referring to with the corporate executives thing, this is a very ad hoc sort of approach where you have these corporations, they don't want a media backlash, they want to look favorable to their donors and everything, so they appoint women to avoid lawsuits. I'm sure they do a great job, but in terms of leadership, who's going to get you across the river, not be across already, and be like, okay, my turn. Show me a company that's trading on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange that was started in a garage and becomes like a multi-billion-dollar company. Every one that you can show me that was started by women and led to that success, there's 100 that were started by men. This is just the nature of the game. I'm sorry. In terms of experience versus, the emotional experience versus acting on that, like we said, men are better at controlling that emotion. We might experience it, but we're better at controlling it. Maybe there's a study with some fun, hypothetical ethical experiments. That's great, but we've had thousands of years of this, and I think that the record is pretty clear.
Well, the thousands of years that you keep referencing are ignoring all kinds of context there, first and foremost. Second of all,
humans are flawed.
Well, hold on, wait. I don't know why you're telling a bedtime story right now to the audience about this study. You're making something up because you're coping over the fact that this study clearly shows that when women are in top executive positions, the companies outperform their competitors by near 25%. This was a study done in 29 different countries with over 1,000 companies. So you can't just tell a story and try to explain it away. That's coping.
You totally can. Show me then those decisions that were made. Establish a common variable and then find some causal link from there. You're going, oh my gosh, the biggest companies are implementing DEI training. But this is like evidence of it's winning. No, show me one that has been built from the ground up by a disproportionate amount of female leaders relative to men, and then I will believe you. But this is just not the case.
Women-owned businesses all over the place obviously are still significantly in the minority. However, again, the study that I'm keep referencing, you keep on trying to like run away from and say, show me a woman who started a company in a garage. No, the study that I'm referencing demonstrates that there is a strong correlation between women in top executive positions and the company performing better. What that demonstrates is that women do very much have the potential to be far better leaders or just be as good of leaders as men.
Which I accept the possibility of that, but this idea that okay, so that's one way to look at it. He is accurate in that. Another way to look at it, which is probably the case, which is that big companies have a social incentive to include more women, more people of color in their top executives. There are NGOs and leftist institutions that literally track this, and if someone's out of line, they have their media watchdog groups go after these people, which affects the stock.
This is the cope.
Rationalization is a cope, ladies and gentlemen.
This
Don't
is the
ever
cope,
think
buddy.
about things. Believe the screen people.
No, rationality is not the cope, but trying to just fill in the blanks and say, well, they were probably all just like liberal institutions who were incentivized.
Literally, yes.
That's coping.